Hi, everybody, and welcome to The Experience. And I'm your host, Nora Yolles-Young. And today we have Sara Kujawa, my friend, who's in Texas, and she is a spiritual translator. Do you call yourself? Well, first, let me just invite you on. Hi, Sara.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi, everyone.
So good to see you.
Good to see you. Look, we both have white on.
I know. Well, that's the color of our energy, right?
Pure love. Pure love.
So we were actually, we're just starting kind of early and impromptu because Sara and I were just checking in, and we just started rolling into talking about grief because Sara has a really profound and deeply powerful story about grief, and she's doing a wonderful approach to grief. Right? You're doing a show, right?
Well, it's not really like a Facebook Live, not any of that yet, and video. I mean, other than being guests, with all of you
On
and your
Joyride, yeah.
yeah.
So, okay.
More of a co-creating with my son, who's in spirit, that he passed 4 years ago in a work accident, and we've gotten to the point where he and I have been communicating for quite a while, but we've gotten to the point, or I've gotten to the point, he was already ready, gotten me to the point of co-creating a group to help others do deep grief differently, like Adam and I have done it. And
So
it's called.
sorry. Let me just pause you there. So that's a lot. So for all of my audience who are not familiar with Sara, her son Adam died 4 years ago of a work accident, and so what has happened, and if any of you are familiar with channeling Erik, it's somewhat of a similar scenario, except in channeling Erik, Elisa Medhus is having a spirit translator be the intermediary between her and her son Erik. And in this instance with Sara, her son Adam comes directly to her. And I actually met you, Sara, when you were just starting to crack open. And the reason I want to sort of zoom in on this is because a lot of my audience are going through spiritual awakenings. And so this is a way that people can often experience spiritual awakening is through a profound loss. And so I just want to fast forward a little bit in the sense that we're going to later on be talking about Sara's work doing grief differently. She's been writing articles about it, and she's preparing herself to launch more into a video framework. But, going back now to Sara about her journey. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when my son passed suddenly, it catapulted me forward where I wanted to know where Adam was at, instead of living and doing grief the traditional way of reminiscing of where he used to be and staying into that deep muck, those low energies. I was being pushed and kicked to move forward, and to move forward meaning to learn how to communicate. It was something I believed in, but I had no reason to move forward and search for those until Adam passed, which was that was the biggest lure, of course.
Let me interrupt you there. When you say you were being pushed, what tell me for instance of what that experience was like.
It was signs and synchronicities, but just a feeling of, I knew that there was more, just that knowing in my heart. I would have those aha moments, those deja vu moments of remembering of things of like foreseeing the future or already been there. Like I knew it was going to happen. When Adam was born, I always felt he was going to have a short life. But I thought he was my firstborn, so I thought it was more fear-based, meaning I could control it from a mom's point of view. I worried more. I was concerned more. And then when I made it through those teenage years, I thought that was it. I made it through that, and I prolonged his life, I guess. Yeah.
Wow. So, and I want to pause there too. I think that's a really interesting noticing, because you hear people knowing that they're going to pass at a young age. You hear that speaking with mediums, that. And if you also, anybody who's interested in reading the literature out there, in past life regressions, or in people who end up dying young, all know somehow that they're not going to live a long life. Now, I don't know if this is an awareness on a soul level. It very well could be. Is it the law of attraction? Is it the law of attraction coming in because of this awareness and energizing it? I don't know. My gut feeling is it's a knowing on a soul level.
I believe that. So I believe that too. At first, I started rehashing all those thoughts that I had of him growing up. And just even I had someone in my neighborhood stop by a few years before he passed and say, I had a dream. I don't know your son, but I had a dream about him the night before, and something horrible happened to him.
Really?
Yes. And it shook me. It scared me.
How long before he passed was that?
2 or 3 years before he passed.
Oh, wow.
And I still thought I didn't know how to move forward out of that. So I thought it was something I could control. Mm-hmm. That a lot of manifestation was, I was creating it for him, even though we each have our own soul's journey.
Right. So what did you do?
Mother that took over. Mm-hmm.
What is a mom who feels like she has control over something ultimately she has no control over do? What is that behavior like?
Oh my gosh. It's like I was in a constant worry state, but I didn't know I was, because I thought that was just part of being a mother, even though I didn't have that with my daughter.
Interesting.
With her. She's 25 now. I never had that fear or worry with her. But with him, I did. So I know it's more of a soul. It's just almost like my pre-agreement kicked in.
Right. I think a lot of people will probably be able to relate to this on so many levels, because, I just trust that the right people are connecting with your message, and how profound it is to tap into the awareness, Sara, that yes, indeed, you do have wisdom that transcends space and time. It's like putting the dots together after his passing and realizing a part of me already knew.
Yeah, I already knew. And we went to a few readings in the very beginning, I would say maybe half a dozen in that first year and a half before and then I got out of the doubting stage where I was hearing him. But I even remember one of the mediums telling my husband, saying, you knew this. And he just kind of looked at her with big eyes going like, what are you talking about? But now that he has opened up more, he understands on a deeper level, doesn't express it the way I do as openly, mm-hmm. But I see how beautiful it is, how he is able to live his life in a different piece, knowing that this was part of it. And this was Adam's journey, that we could not have changed it, even though it was a horrible accident. The accident could have been prevented from our earthly view, mm-hmm. but not from the spiritual view. It was to help make changes, some safety changes. And that's what part of my husband's and my plan was, to make changes in the world so it doesn't happen to the next person.
Wow. I mean, there's so many morsels of juiciness, right, in that last bit that you're talking about. Because on the one hand, it's like, well, first of all, you're talking about your husband awakening to his broader knowing, which is really cool, because I didn't know that he's been opening up more. That is awesome. And then the other piece too, which I think a lot of people in a state of grief, of perpetual grief, are in that place of either survivor's guilt or shoulda, coulda, woulda. Mm-hmm. And then and it's really, for a mom losing her child, 4 years is really not a very long period of time to be moving to such a deep clarity and healing when it comes to grief. And I'm not saying that, and I don't think you're saying that necessarily means you don't have your days, because grief is like, cycles.
That's right. Very finicky. And that's, and raising your vibration and picking and choosing what's your environment and changes everything else. But and so even with this group, this was all part of my plan all along. And that's why I can just feel that push. And it was scary moving into the unknown. I didn't have any friends, but then the universe was bringing them to me. They just start coming in. And I opened up, I was looking for alternative therapies and healing modalities for me with the grief, because I took it on physically right away too. Like where my lower back and my hips, that's the stability, your foundation of your life. So I was looking for alternative therapies and came across Reiki, and I had a few sessions, and I said, oh, I need to know, I want to learn more about this. I've never heard of it. I've never seen it. Even though there are places of business all over the area, I've never paid attention to the signs. It wasn't in my awareness.
It wasn't time.
So, yeah. So then my sister found out that it was offered at our local community college. And it had been offered for many years, all these spiritual classes for adults. And I was like, really? I had no calling for it. Like I said, it wasn't in my trajectory. Well, it was, but I just didn't know it.
Well, I think people would be surprised that you're in North Houston, and like, if you're in North Houston and you aren't aware of the resources for spirituality and expansion in that regard, check it out. I mean, most people would just sort of consider North Houston so conservative that they wouldn't have that, but they have it in the community colleges, people.
I know, and it wasn't something that I was being led to, but now it's like you see them everywhere. You see places popping up and businesses all over. So it was that part of that. I do believe the law of attraction was me being able to step out of fear and worry and judgment, so I could put myself out there and in turn more people would come to me. Because if I kept a secret that I was communicating, it was going to stay within me in that vibration.
Yeah.
So little by little, and as you know this, so I learned Reiki and took my certifications through the Master and through the Karuna Reiki, and which opened me up, because Reiki 1, the beauty of Reiki, because all energy healing is all universal life force energy. Yeah. But the Reiki healing, the beauty of Reiki 1 is that you learn to do Reiki on yourself. You focus that whole semester on yourself, being able to heal yourself, because most of us as moms, we want to heal and fix everyone else, right? So that's the beauty of what that taught me, was to go within. And the woman who taught it at the time was a retired nurse. She had been an angel channeler her whole life.
Wow. So
she was brought to me. She was a beautiful mentor. So she's the one who introduced me to the archangels and communicating with the ascended masters, which in turn, then it healed me enough, even though Adam was sending me signs and messages, and I was getting words now and then, I was still doubting, because it was hard for me to see where he is now, where he is versus where he was, that unknown. So that's how that opened up. But then going through that phase, as all of us go through, then you go through the phase of, okay, now I've got to share this openly more, because this is who I am. This is where my passion and my joy is helping others.
That's so good.
Another stage you go through, of the fear of judgment, and fear of coming out.
I think that's still a really big deal on so many levels for people. And I just want to pause you too, that one of the things that I find fascinating about you is you're also very much open, Sara, about your relationship to Christ. And because there are people who have had a very Christian upbringing, in this country in particular, who may be having some of these experiences and keeping it to themselves, maybe because of their fear of judgment, or not able to really bridge that broader perspective with the education that they initially had. For those people, Sara, what's your point of view regarding?
Well, what helped me, I was raised Catholic, and that was my primary religion up until the children were in school, and then I went non-denominational, and I went to different types of churches, different was able to explore different religions. But when I started looking a few years before Adam passed, I got really interested in Teresa Caputo and her new show. I was already a few years behind on our episodes, but it so interests me because she was raised Catholic. Okay, James Van Praagh was raised Catholic. So many of the famous mediums were raised Catholic, and I thought, well, okay, that made it more acceptable. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it made it more acceptable balance for me to see others. The
Yeah,
angel,
it's like an opening, a door opening for you.
yeah, the angel Taylor who taught my Reiki classes, she was raised Catholic. She was just busy talking to the angels and saints during Mass. That's what she was doing. Okay. So I thought, well,
that's got to be happening. You know, that's got to be happening currently.
right. And then the service that we had at Adam Celebration of Life's service at was Pentecostal. And that was my first, I'm going to say, opening of the doors of this belief system. Mm-hmm. But the beauty of that, the angels kept saying, just continue going after, Adam's service, continue going first off, so I could go back into the same building and, so I would have new memories inside the church, which that's part of grief, is creating new memories. So you're not replaying the old memories constantly on a loop. Secondly was that in this church, I'm not saying all Pentecostal, this church, it was very open and received. If you had a message from God or from Jesus, that you could go over and speak to someone else in the church and say, listen, I just received this message for you. Would you like to hear it? So it was very open forum, which I not in my Catholic.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, I really got to let go of some of these beliefs I've been holding on to.
Yeah, and I've heard of other Pentecostal churches that aren't that's that open either.
And we think of speaking in tongue, that's just light language.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
And the Pentecostal religion is very in favor of everyone feeling and being filled with the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And so it's just different terminology and use.
It is.
There's some fear, of course, still, and every church is different. I'm not going to, I don't want anybody to make a comment about, but they're all different. They're just all different. It's based on even the congregation. They're different beliefs in the congregation. But so it's like, well, I've already been through the worst thing ever that's happened.
Truly.
The next step for me that was fear-based was speaking publicly, as you know. That was part of it. And I think that's actually probably those are the top 1 and 2 things for most people in the United States, is the fear of death, and the loss of a child or themselves, and speaking publicly. So I think I've done pretty good with both of those now. But I've had a lot of spiritual help get me moving. And it's okay just to be yourself. Mm-hmm. Just to be yourself.
Yeah.
Get out of
yeah, and that actually brings up a really good point too, is and something that I notice in my practice is people struggle with identity. And I think part of that is that fear of being persecuted that might even be a genetic component, stored like epigenetically in our bodies through fear over the generations, whether it's persecution of a different religion or persecution of a different race or ethnicity or whatever it is. And I think that now is the time to, to grow beyond that, to really move beyond the paradigm that is preventing people from even knowing themselves, their true heart, their true selves.
Yeah, their true spirit.
Yeah, their true spirit.
I think that's beautifully said. I think this is just an opportunity. I like to shift and soften everything. When something comes up, I just look at, this is the universe bringing this, bubbling this up. It might be on the back burner. It's been simmering for many years, but it's there. So it's time to bring it out, heal it. Yeah. Okay. It might be something that's been, like you said, from other generations. It could have started when you were a child and it's just grown, manifested and grown. I didn't have those tools. I wasn't given those tools growing up.
Yeah. I can hear it in your spirit. Listen, it's like this is the mind body connection too. When we're talking about something that's really near and dear to our heart, that's still moving. And I don't mean to make an example of you, but I want to point out to the audience that when you are having a conversation about something that's really deeply meaningful to you, you may notice a little bit of a tightening in the throat chakra. as you soften, as you're saying right now, as you move from sort of the rigid interpretation and sort of pull back, soften, and shift into allowing your throat, your voice will come through if you just stop trying to manage it. Right?
Yes, that's true. That's true. I just have to relax and just feel it and let it flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
That is so cool. So what was it like for you when you started realizing that Adam was talking to you?
Oh my gosh. It was like the most profound moment was when I physically heard his voice, externally hearing his voice.
So what was that like? Tell me.
I felt like, oh, this whole shift in my body. I felt a whole shift going. I never thought I'd ever hear his voice again. Because hearing your voice, it comes through, spirit comes through all different ways. It can all internal, external, from one side to the back, all over. And there's no right or wrong way. They are working with you and first to help move you forward and to expand. But I needed that shift to hear his voice, not just hear how it sounded in my thoughts, but actually hear it, because I never thought I would ever hear his voice again, after he passed.
How beautiful.
Like, how can that be? Because I wasn't raised to believe that.
Yeah.
I wasn't raised to hear his voice, hear him, hear his voice. But it started with, so then I would have those profound moments in the very beginning, and then it would shift back. Okay, now I got to work on my foundation again and build it back up. Mm-hmm. And then you have another shift and you build off of that. Mm-hmm. So it's a continual processing of releasing and working through your emotions. Mm-hmm. The guilt, if any guilt that you're carrying, any of those woulda, shoulda, couldas, like you spoke about, clearing your energy field. So clearing that space in your thoughts, because when you're deep in grief, everything is swimming. Mm-hmm. It's just everything is swimming because you don't understand. Everything's just been turned and flipped upside down, and you're trying to make sense of it.
So when you're in that space, just to pause you, I think this is an opportunity here to share with others if you have a quick technique for clearing your energy when you're in that place of overwhelm. What do you do, Sara?
Well, there's several. And when you're super overwhelmed and you can't, there's just nothing you can do, to the point of sobbing, or you just can't turn off the hamster wheel that's in your thoughts. You have to. It's like taking a child that you've brought into the room, and you have breakables on the table, and then the child goes to the table, and you pick them up and you move the child goes back over. You keep going and focusing back on it. Either you have to distract that child. Mm-hmm. Okay, distract them. You've got to distract your thoughts. So it could be through humor, watching comedy, even if it's just for a 3-minute Facebook fun video, just to make you laugh and forget, just for that moment, just to shift that thought. Tapping, the EFT is great for that.
That's emotional freedom technique for those familiar. Mm-hmm.
And there's plenty of YouTube videos too, and we know some great practitioners too.
Oh, yeah.
And
if you're interested in Tiffany Williams from the Joyride Show,
listening to your favorite music, not picking tunes that are going to remind you of the person who passed. Mm-hmm. Picking tunes that are going to uplift you. One of those that get stuck in your head. Those ones.
Good. That's a good point.
Happy noise. And exercise, walking, getting out in nature. Okay, sitting and doing the same thing over that you've been doing is not going to create a change. You have to make a change. Yeah. You have to be the one to put one foot in front of the other. Yes. Also, I would just do my energy healing technique. So for those who are not familiar with it, it's just you start rubbing your hands briskly for several seconds till they heat up, and you're going to feel that energy between your hands, that static electricity. And once you feel that, I just center myself and place it on my heart chakra and close my eyes for a moment or two and just feel that peace. Just feel that energy flowing through you. That's God's love. That's the universal life force energy. And I just feel that and soak it in for a minute or two. For me, it's like hitting a reset button. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it just calms.
The way you describe it too is very much that way. It's actually simple.
It's very simple, but when we're in deep emotions, we can't think
Mm-hmm.
outside what we're in. It's very, so that's where either you make a list, but you have to practice. So it just becomes second nature. Like if you leave the house, you don't remember locking the door, but you know you locked the door. You just
Right.
has to be second nature where you just do it.
Right. Well, and I think too, and tell me if you agree, when we're used to behaving in a certain way, and especially when it comes to grief, there's these claws of letting go that we have sunk into our energy field that are, or into our belief that if we are to let go on any level, and that means relaxing, that means shifting the thought to a distraction, that somehow we're doing a disservice, that we can't, that we're somehow, it's not fair to the other person to not be locked into that place. And then the fear of what is beyond that sensation of trying to control. What happens when we let go? Will we fall? Will we die? Will the world around us collapse? And even though it doesn't sound necessarily logical, it's a real fear that people have.
Oh my gosh, yes. And what I went through, and I know the several that I've helped, we go through this phase of the deep grief, thinking if we move forward, we'll lose memories, or we're doing a disservice. You're right, for the loved one. Somehow we need to be like, we want to be with them. We still have that pull to be with them instead of move forward. But really and true, to move forward, we are helping them. Yeah. We're increasing our vibration and energy. They're all in a good place. We have to trust that they're in a better place than we are. Okay? It was chosen on a soul level. Yeah. And that's the hard part. We can't change it. So all we can do is change how we feel about it. And that's by learning more about the afterlife, more about heaven, gaining a better understanding. And because knowledge is powerful, it makes us feel like, not that we have control, but it gives us a sense of like relief, knowing, okay, I truly know that they are in a good place. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because we tell everyone that, when someone else passes, we tell them, oh, that they're through suffering now. They're in a good place. But do you truly know that?
Right. Right. And taking it on board. I mean, what it surprises me too is how many people actually do get messages in dreams or from psychics or mediums, and they are told perpetually that they're fine, that they're good, and there's still that doubt. And there's nothing wrong with it. Grief takes as long as it takes, but that is an interesting place of trust and faith. And I think what I've noticed in my practice is people who are personally afraid of there being something beyond death, that they're afraid of dying, have a harder time moving beyond grief.
Right. It's that unknown, because we don't know. That's what that trust and allowing, and that's what Jesus has taught us all along, to have faith and trust and to believe. And when we teach our children to believe in Santa Claus, and wholeheartedly they do for a long period of time, right? Yeah. And then when they don't, we kind of are like, oh, yeah. The magic is over. But the magic of the afterlife is there. It's truly there. And that everyone has the ability to communicate with their loved ones. We're getting signs and messages from them all the time, but we just have to raise our vibration so it's in our awareness, so we notice. Right. It's like me noticing the Reiki energy healing places or anything. It wasn't something that I didn't even want to go Google it. I had could care less. Yeah, it's so interesting. And so the idea of raising your vibration is feeling in a more uplifted place. It's using those distraction techniques initially to start opening yourself, the way I describe it sort of is like to a different bandwidth. It's like when you're in a lower frequency, it's like you're seeing reality in this way that it's a very narrow bandwidth of frequency. And you can only really perceive that bandwidth. It's like being colorblind, and it's like you can't perceive outside of your colorblindness until
you start to raise your vibration through these other techniques that you're talking about, and then you can start to perceive a greater bandwidth, and that is also the bandwidth that includes the spirit realm.
Yes. So higher doesn't mean better, but we have to be in a more peaceful place. We have to open up more, and for most of us, opening up more, we have to let go of limiting beliefs. That's a huge one.
Yeah.
We want the I can, and I am, and I can.
Yeah. So what did you have to work on that? Was that something that you yeah. So talk a little bit about
all that. The self-love, self-worth, which I was to say the majority of us do have to go through this. It's like when we go through the empty, I was already going through the empty nester syndrome and all this. Adam was 28, but my daughter had just started college at that point. So I was in that stage of my life of finding out what I wanted to do, because up until then, I felt, well, first off, I am a mom and I'm a good mom. That was my definition of me.
Yeah.
I had my career, but I was a mom first and foremost. So now all of a sudden I'm not a mom to him anymore.
Right. Wow.
The focus was gone. And it was like, I have to redefine myself.
Right.
But then it wasn't that long after that I realized he was helping me all along to redefine myself, that this was part of the journey. More or less that I'd helped him to get through his journey, this to-do list, and now me.
Beautiful. So how did he help you in your journey?
Helping me to dig down deep and bring up, letting go of hindering beliefs, digging in there and finding out what was stopping me from living life to the fullest. And we all have a laundry basket.
Yes.
We all have a laundry basket. So pull one out. I would bring in the archangels too. I would have whoever, and Erik, all different spiritual guides, and bring them in to help and say, okay, help me see this from a higher perspective.
I think that's a significant thing to say. So setting intentions.
I would just do from one memory at a time. Something, I would ask them, okay, bring up something in my energy field that's really bothering me, that's preventing me. And it could have been something I said to someone 10 years ago. It could have been an argument I had with a friend when I was, 16 or whatever that's come up, where I need to clear it because it's something compounded.
So interesting.
And different things that happened to me as a child, I was told, and I don't know about your generation, I was born in 1960, where women really didn't have the right to speak up.
Yeah.
So either you raised your hand in class, and if it wasn't something positive or something that, the teacher wanted to hear, you just zipped it.
Yeah.
So I had to work through releasing all that, saying it was okay.
So when you did this, Sara, was this in a state of meditation, like you would intentionally set aside a time to do this work?
I would set time aside where it was in a quiet place. I picked different areas. I had in this healing room, which was Adam's childhood room, I turned into a healing room.
Oh, cool.
And at first, and I don't know if I've mentioned this before in my blog, but what really helped, sitting in a hot bathtub with Epsom salts.
Yes.
I was confined to the bathtub. I was confined, naked in the bathtub.
Yeah.
It was like all ears now, right? All ears.
Well, and water is an amplifier. Yeah, and I think, isn't salt a conductor? It's also a clearer of your energy.
It's clearer. It was clearing toxins out, helping me release. And then I would hear him say, just set your intent. You could even do a meditation. Sometimes I would spend a whole hour in the tub, adding more hot water and just say, okay, I feel good. I feel safe here. I know they're all around me because I am secluded, and they have my undivided attention. Right?
Like a cocoon.
Yeah, like a cocoon. And I also used the pendulum in the very beginning. I learned that in Reiki class, to check and balance chakras. So as a student, I realized, I can talk to whomever I want through the pendulum to help. I use the pendulum like it was an antenna.
Like a dowsing rod. So people if you're not familiar with pendulums, that's a type of dowsing, and you ask the pendulum when you've aligned with the energy of it and cleared yourself, you prepared yourself, then you ask the pendulum questions, yes or no questions.
Mm-hmm. So then I got really pretty good at that. The more I cleared, the stronger it came through, the bigger the swing. I could feel the personalities of whoever I was speaking to come through.
Oh, wow.
I could just feel it. So it just strengthened. And then that built my trust and my confidence.
Wow. Kind of like a feedback
Yeah.
to learning your skill. That's so cool.
So that was great doing it in the bathtub and then as I got stronger, I was able to do it more in public.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much coming in when you're out, amongst other people.
Oh, yeah.
So building it from the ground up, no different if you were to sit down with your small child, you would sit with them just one at a time to help them understand and read a picture book.
Uh-huh.
You want a quiet place, one-on-one, no distractions, etc. So I try to think of it that way. The communication, you got to kind of build it back up. It's there, but you're just remembering. And visuals, I'm a very strong visual learner.
Uh-huh.
So third eye cracked open right away. And that was, so building that and where I could get a visual. So if I didn't know who I was speaking to, I would ask for a visual of that person or something to remind me of that person or remind me of the word.
When you say your third eye cracked open, what do you mean?
I started to see visions. I started with colors.
Uh-huh.
And then visions, and then I would even get glimpses of other realities, go into past lives. It was just, wow. It wasn't like I'm just seeing an outline of a duck. It went into, it's almost like I turned on a TV.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But I build it just like you would with a small child.
Yeah.
Right? Here's a star. You show them a picture of a star, and then you eventually show them a star in the sky so they can associate.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So it built that way. It went from stronger as if I was looking at a picture book to now when I see a vision or through my third eye, it'll almost be like HD TV.
Oh, cool.
Strengthen it that way. And that takes practice. It takes practice, but really if you're in the grief, it's clearing, enlightening, having moments of just being more at peace and knowing that moving forward, you're closer to your loved ones, not away from them.
Right.
Closer to the communication because there's no such thing as the time, right? Distance. So and learning in Reiki too, the distance energy healing, that was beautiful to realize. It doesn't transcend. I can send, if I want to send healing energy to someone in Switzerland, I can, and they can feel it. And I thought,
that was powerful for me too. It's like, oh my gosh, it's instantaneous when you get feedback from the people.
Yeah. And I thought, if I can do that, well, then of course I can talk to spirit. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. If that's working, and I just sent it sitting here.
Yeah. And I'm just connecting. So I like to think of it as a smartphone without even having to open it up or unlock the screen.
That's awesome.
Right?
Yeah. So
yeah. So it's just building it from the ground up for those in grief. Now, if you're not in grief, you may start reflecting and looking at all the dots in your life and go, oh, yeah, I remember this happening. Because I can even look back at my childhood and go, oh, I had a lot of aha moments. I had a lot of premonitions. I had a lot of things that happened that you and I would consider like woo-woo. But I didn't. I just kind of like, oh, that's coincidence, right? And then about a few weeks before Adam passed, and I don't know if you know this story, we were getting a new stovetop, and it required new pots and pans because And I was down on my knees. It was around Christmas time of 2013. Pulling out my favorite pans. I had my grandmother's fudge pan that my mother had used, and then when she passed, I took it on this huge kettle, and I was like, I can't use this anymore. I was so upset. See, now how silly it was. I was so upset about this pan in retrospect. And I thought, oh, and I have this other pan. Well, I'll let Adam have them because he's always needing pans because he'll put like a frying pan on the grill and burn it, and then you can't say
always ruining the pans.
Ruining the pans. And I knew this heavy kettle, there's no way he could destroy it. It was like 100 years old. Anyway, so I heard this pulling out the pans, and I was in, just in that mode, just doing, where my thoughts were quiet other than thinking about the pan. And I heard a female voice come through and say, Adam will not be here to use the pans or use the pots. You know, something that, and it was like,
oh.
Okay, very strong, very clear. That's the first time I remember hearing such a strong voice. Okay. And it was like, okay, it didn't scare me. I didn't even know what to do with it.
Right.
Didn't even know what to do with it. I said, okay. And then she said, but everything's going to be okay. Or all right. I can't remember. I have to look it up and see if it was all right or okay. And it was like, okay, you know, and I said, okay. And I put the pans in the garage because Adam was in Colorado at the time. He was going to be home in a few weeks to celebrate Christmas. As a matter of fact, we were getting him a grill for that last Christmas. And I didn't tell anybody. I just kind of like, okay. But it wasn't even, I wasn't supposed to remember it because it probably I would have worried even more.
Right.
I would have worried even more.
Right.
So that wasn't after the fact. And then when I started communicating, that was my mother in spirit letting me know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So he passed around Christmas time, right?
Yes, January 9th of 2014.
January 9th. Okay, right.
So
you didn't get it, did you? Oh, he was home for Christmas.
They flew him home. His company, he wasn't sure. And you know, here's something else too. This is another aha moment I had. The last 2 Christmases, he was doing contract work. And so I never knew if he was just going to be an hour away or 10 hours away, you know, depending on what job he took. And the last 2 Christmases I spent with him, he wasn't sure he was going to come home until like the day before, because it depended on where they were in their job, if they could leave, if they'd get to fly home for a few days.
Yeah.
I remember telling my husband the 2 Christmases before, saying, if Adam doesn't come home, we're driving to him. I think it was Oklahoma, which wasn't that far. And I remember my husband looking at me and goes, we're not going to. I said, yes, we are. I said, we've never not had a Christmas with Adam.
Aww.
Now. So he did get to come home for that Christmas. And then he worked on and off, you know, around the southern part of the United States. And then his very last Christmas, same thing. He didn't know until a few days before they flew him in. And I got great stories about that too. But all those little God winks all along the way. And he got to come home for like 3 or 4 days, and he got to spend time with his sister, with Amy. She had just turned 21.
Oh,
so he taking her out drinking on Christmas Eve.
Oh, cool. What a great bonding thing for them.
They had a great time, and she got really, really sick. But she had great stories that she shared during the celebration of life. And you know, in the future on another one, I'll share the whole story behind that, because it's really, really funny. But I see all the God winks, you know, that I knew each Christmas, you know, I'm going to be with him. I have to be with him. I wasn't worried about anyone else, you know. It's like, I'm just worried about Adam.
Right. This is going to be a priority.
It was just coming through. But I did go through that phase where I thought somehow I created this, you know, part of this manifesting.
How devastating.
It was free life, but not in this. Pardon?
That's a devastating thing to spend energy focusing on. You know, wow. And I'm sure that's very common.
I know it's very common. I come across it quite a bit, but it shows like yours and all of our friends that have Facebook groups and all these open forums and YouTubes and Channeling Erik, is to make it more normal, so they know. They have just a little bit of knowing. Okay, yeah. So if something does happen, something tragic does happen, they'll look back at those dots and go, oh yes, that's right. I have a resource that was already put in place long ago.
So good. It's such good work that you're doing, Sara.
Thank you. It was hard for me to come out with this Facebook group. Did you hear the story about that?
No.
But I've been putting it off for about a year. I so wanted to. First off, responsibility, of course. Secondly, it wasn't about coming out, because everyone had already come out. But secondly, it was felt like I was doing it solo. Even though Adam and I co-created, most of my friends who have groups or shows, most of them have a partner.
Yeah.
Their partner in crime to throw ideas around and toss around. They get another physical person they're talking to, right? So it took me a while to adjust and accept, because it was like had different expectations, because that's me. That's the analytical part coming in. Oh no, I want it this way. And every day he says, you just have to trust and allow whatever we post, that there are members in this group, whether they comment or not, this is a message they need to hear. Wow. So if it's repeated several times, it's because they need to hear it several times. Mm-hmm. But so it's been a joy and a blessing, of course, bittersweet. I still have a wonderful and amazing relationship with him. It's just different. Totally.
Yeah. Well, and you get to interact with his broader perspective. It's not just the Adam who is your child, but it's also the Adam that is infinite intelligence, that your soul knows for eternity and throughout eternity. And so it's a different version than the one you're familiar with.
Right. And it helps me expand. So it helps me expand to my broader version.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause he knows he has access to that more readily than you in your human form.
Sure. That's exactly true. And I know I have to stay in this peaceful place, and that's part of the journey too. But that's part of that self-love. We got to take care of ourselves. Each have to, provide for our family, but it's up to us to keep our energy field, our homes, our environment, feeling good.
It's so true. Do you ever feel like you want to chat with him, but your vibration isn't just right? And does he come through and go, you gotta hoist it up?
All the time. All the time. And like you just spoke, because at the beginning when I started, I didn't do my meditation before we started this interview.
Yeah, we just
would have to calm down and center, but we were trying to make sure that the Zoom was working and all that. I can tell it's obvious because nothing's coming through. It's almost like I've just cut it off. Like a kid going, no, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
So
come join me.
Yeah. So like last night he said, okay, go for a walk. And it was like, oh, it's 110 degrees, but okay, go for a walk. So I walked around the park, and it just moving that energy through my body. I had to release, I just had to release some stuff that was stored up in my chakras. So I just had to release. And I could have done different ways, but walking was just a great form of just getting out in nature, walking for 20 minutes and coming back. And then it was like, ooh, I feel clear.
Well, I feel like I'm getting a message, and I don't know if it's from Adam, but I'm getting the reason it started early and you didn't have the meditation is because it's really, this is about your journey right now.
Yeah, it was supposed to come from, my
Yeah. If you want to take a couple deep breaths and just see if that'll shift. I'm sort of curious because I want to sort of tune in, and we could take a couple deep breaths and just see, like, maybe even something will show up to the audience. You want to just try? Do a couple.
He just came through, and he goes, he's standing there like the t-shirt on and naked, just a t-shirt. He goes, you want to see if something comes through? It already came through. Okay.
That's awesome. No need.
Very
t-shirt and no pants.
Yeah, t-shirt, no pants. Is that a guy thing or what?
My friend likes to call that shirt cocking. Adam's shirt cocking.
Yeah, and I see Erik here too. So he just put off of what you just said.
They knew that term?
Yep. He goes, he said, I coined it. What are you talking about? He was just joking. I always ask for humor, even when I'm working with clients who are in a sad place, I get it to the place of humor because it lifts them and it shifts them during the session.
Sure.
They can't laugh at themselves or at least laugh at Adam, right?
Yeah.
It just shifts the whole session, and then you realize, and there's always layers. So when you get messages, there's always multiple layers. I call it the 7-layer lasagna. How there's more meaning. So you can listen to it an hour later and get another message out of it. Right?
So true.
Depending where you are in your vibration, you'll pick up different things. But humor, that you keep your personality. when you pass, don't think it's gone and that you're resting in peace in the clouds, with the harps and
yeah, that you have to be well behaved in your thoughts. You can't be irreverent or silly or inappropriate in your humor, because that's not true.
No, it's not far from being the truth. Anything because they don't worry about judgment, so they can whatever. They're not worried about judgment, right? So, yeah, they don't worry about saying the F word, because how I have a hard time saying the F word. I say fudge, and every other slang term.
That's just cute. That's really cute, because I know a lot of the gals that you hang out with, including me, are not really as we're like truck drivers. Let's just put it that way.
It's okay. It's okay. And part of it is and I'm older, so I was raised a little different, right? But my parents are in spirit, and I still have that ooh, even though they're in spirit, they hear everything I say.
Well, my kids, if they hear me swear, they're like, Mom. I'm like, oops, it's really, for me, it's just punctuation. It's like,
right.
Accentuating with a little bit of a flair.
Right. And I was just talking about in this future post that I'm going to put on the group. It's whatever energy you put behind the word anyway.
Yeah.
So you can take a fun word and you can make it an angry word, or vice versa.
Absolutely. Such a good point. So do these guys want to come through and say anything before we close up here? Because this hour has flown by very quickly.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, it has. First off, much love and light to you. And this is from the whole gang that's here. Oh, Dr. Wayne too. Everybody's here. They're all here. They're all here. Love and light to you.
Oh, I'm going to cry right now that you mentioned him.
He says he helps you with your when you have your hands on the keyboard. So yeah, he's involved. Quite involved.
Oh my gosh, I'm so going to cry right now.
I can feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love him. I lean on him a lot.
So that was more important, that he comes through. He does. He helps you with. He does. He clears your thoughts sometimes. So he paved the way because he knows how instrumental his teachings were. And he goes, don't give him all the credit for all the teachings, because Spirit helped him when he was in his earthly body too.
Totally. Well, I feel that the funness and delight that it's like the mastery that he understood in being human. And I often will let the people that I've asked to come in and assist me in this physical life to indulge in sharing my physical body, to just like when I'm jogging or being physically active, whatever it is, like enjoying food, and the writing experience, because I know that he was so prolific and good at it.
Yes. Okay, now Adam's going to share, saying he'll be there to help you enjoy the food. He's good at that, he said.
Come on down, Adam.
Erik said he'll help in the bedroom.
All right, just don't make your presence known.
He said, don't worry.
Just be subtle about it.
He said he'll just create the I thought he was making fun of a word. I thought he said erotic zone, but he said energy zone. So he's playing with me and my thoughts.
With that, I'm okay with
that. Also, that is a cool way too for those who are getting their signs and messages, is that sometimes Spirit will come through and overlap either a visual or a word over something. So it's going to be like corny things will come through. All right. Or something to do with his passions. And those in the Facebook group are learning that. But it'll come through, and then just like you're going to be look at something, you look at a sign and you read it and go, what? And then you look at it and go, oh no, that's not what it was.
And that was him tweaking.
There's a tweak in there.
Yeah.
So that's a great way to get a message from your loved one or whoever. You can call in Adam, Erik, Dr. Wayne. Be glad to help too.
You guys are all totally welcome all the time. I love it. I love the support, because we humans are kind of bumbling around here and making the most of this human experience, and we forget so much. And that's something that I'm really actually trying to access more and more, is just leaning on them to have fun like remind me of how fun it is to be in the physical experience. And I know that my vibration is essential too, but it's more fun that way. It's like, come on, you guys, like, let's play, like, let's delight. Like, this is a really fun life. I know I'm sort of talking, but I had a friend who killed himself relatively recently. And he really had a hard time psychologically getting beyond the pain. And Erik could probably attest to this too. And I can feel him. I invite him in and I just tell him, yeah, this is what it feels like to not have that, to just be enjoying a joyful moment for enjoyment's sake and not having those cycles of profound negative feelings cycle through, which people suffer from so dramatically.
Yes. And then grief can be a trigger for that if you're already suffering, even more so, vice versa.
Absolutely.
It affects the whole family, the whole dynamics.
Yes.
So love and blessings from all of them. Continue your good work. Let your light shine and let your freak, Adam says, let your freak flag fly, of course. Erik says has he pranked you recently? He said he's talking about how he pranked you. So there's something. I don't know if he's talking about the Zoom. I don't think so, but whatever. There's something.
I don't know.
It's going to be coming up. It's going to be coming up.
Okay.
So be looking for
Bring it, Erik. Bring it.
Because it's the big E, so you can see it. See the big E.
Okay. Right on, Erik.
And Adam says, thank you for allowing my mom, is what he said, for being on your show, The Experience. And to help to spread the word, just keep spreading it. There's different alternative ways of doing grief the non-traditional way. There's got to be, he goes, there's a happy path to everything. Everyone search for their own path. There's no right or wrong path, but look for the happy path. Follow that.
I love it.
Happy feet.
Yeah, that is so awesome, you guys. And we, and I think I can speak for you, Sara, too. Like, we really love that you guys are into this too. Like, thanks, everyone.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I really enjoy it. Sometimes I get in there and go, oh, what am I doing? But I really, truly, really love it. And I see, and I'll get little winks and different things being said saying, okay, if you do this, it's going to open up this person. Now that person's going to want to start their own group. See how it just keeps spreading. We just want to keep it spreading. We want this to be the new norm.
Yeah. And it is becoming that way. I think it really is. So, share all of the ways that people can connect with you. Now, I haven't mentioned yet, but the audience could probably figure out that Sara does individual readings for people, just like she did a little bit for me, and I was instantly weeping because she's so dang good at it. So give people access to you.
Well, thank you. My website is Sara Kujawa, KUJAWA.com, SaraKujawa.com. The Facebook group is a closed group, so you've got to look it up and, request to be a friend. And that's Doing Grief Differently with Adam and Sara. And
so cool. And
I'm part of the channel Erik Mediums also.
Right.
.com.
So what I'll do too is when I post this, it'll be in the description box below so that you can just click on it and find Sara and schedule a session with her and join her group.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you, Nora.
You're welcome, Sara.
Love and have fun with the kids. Adam says, have fun with the kids. Enjoy the summer with the kiddos.
Oh, well, and you guys can play with us. I mean, these kids are pretty sensitive too, so you guys can play with them too.
Adam says he does. He hangs out in your backyard because you have a big backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah, big open backyard. Yeah.
Yeah,
he loves it. He loves it. Oh, it's so healing for the kids being out in the backyard. With the animals and being able to ground.
Oh yeah. And we have this big trampoline, and since it's already gotten hot, the kids like to be sprayed with the hose while they bounce on the trampoline.
Oh, how fun is that? How fun is that?
Super fun. I don't know how safe.
He said, let them drink out of the water hose if they want to.
Oh yeah, well we have a pyramid over our water well because we're out in the country.
Oh,
So
perfect.
amazing. So
Let
awesome. Well, we
kids.
gab like girlfriends forever, and I love you, and thank you for all the good work that you. And we're gonna be in Houston. I won't tell you when over the air, but we're gonna be in Houston late at some point in June. So we'll have to get together with the girls at the Joyride show and the Shiny show and play.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Everybody have a great day.
All right. Thank you so much, Sara. And if you have any questions at all that you'd like to ask Sara, you can put those in the comment box, or if you have any questions for me, and be sure to share with your friends if you think that this information about grief is going to be beneficial to them. Share far and wide, and please do subscribe. All right. Until next time, everyone. Thank you so much. Mwah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.